You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, Internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687. 687.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now, 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Sometimes writers feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
My name is Jessie, and I'm proud of the life I have, surrounded by military and aware just how big the world really is. I have a unique perspective on life and the world around us. If you're willing to listen, I'll tell you how I see it, and I won't pull any punches. This is my POV, which stands for Point of View. Alright, it's Jessie. How y'all doing out there today? Yes, I miss you when we're not talking. What a day. Alright, first of all, I feel I have to do this disclaimer. I know many of you already know it, but surprise, I'm Jewish. Now, for you regular listeners of the show, this ain't news. For some of you, this is news. Alright, so now that we got that announcement out of the way, I am going to give you my initial reaction to the fact that the U.S. Embassy is now in Jerusalem. We finally did it. We finally made things right. There is no other country on the planet where our embassy is not in the capital. I checked. I didn't do a comprehensive check. But I most certainly did look. And there is no other country I could find, and if anyone has one, by all means, let me know. That I could find that has the U.S. Embassy not in the capital. And I did some sniffing. Now, of course, it would take a lot of manpower and a lot of time, a lot more than I care to put into this, to check every embassy in the world. But I'm going to say the majority of them, 99%, are in the capitals. Now, this hasn't been without some strife, trust me. The Palestinians in the Gaza Strip have been definitely running amok, shall we say. And there's no other way to explain that one. They're just running amok. And Donald Trump wasn't the first president to say that he was going to move the embassy to Jerusalem. Trust me, he wasn't. By a long shot. He's just the one that did it. And I don't know how else to say that. Now, here's when President Truman yes, I'm going all the way back to Truman, made a similar courageous step.
But in spite of all the advice against it, I chose to recognize the de facto government of Israel. This was done on the 15th of May, 1948. I felt that we were rather the conscience of the free world, and that's the reason.
He did it because he felt the United States was the conscience of the free world. And many people were very much upset by this. And many people were offended, including many allies. Now here's one of President Trump's many statements when he decided.
This is nothing more or less than a recognition of reality. It is also the right thing to do. It's something that has to be done. That is why, consistent with the Jerusalem Embassy Act, I am also directing the State Department to begin preparation to move the American Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. This will immediately begin the process of hiring architects, engineers, and planners so that a new embassy, when completed, will be a magnificent tribute to peace.
This is definitely a bold statement. This is definitely a bold statement. And while President Trump did not make the trip, he did send a video message. He also, Mike Pence was there. There was a whole lot of things. So just because President Trump didn't make the trip doesn't mean anything. Trust me, it doesn't. Now some of you are going, yeah, well, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to tell you, stuff it. It couldn't have moved without President Trump's say-so. It moved. He is not the first president to make that promise. He is the first president to stand up to that promise. And in my mind, that is a courageous thing. So I don't see how you can knock him. I'm sorry, not on this one decision. You may not like 1,000 other things, but on this one decision, I don't know how you can knock him. And while Truman is not a current president, I will grant you that one, he made an equally courageous decision. Now, a few days after this, Nikki Haley had a few things to say at the UN Security Council.
Now today, buried in diplomatic jargon, some presume to tell America where to put our embassy. The United States has a sovereign right to determine where and whether we establish an embassy. I suspect very few member states would welcome Security Council pronouncements about their sovereign decisions. And I think of some who should fear it.
Yes, other countries were trying to tell the United States where we could put our embassy. I'm sorry. We don't interfere with what countries they have embassies in, and we most certainly don't tell them where to put them. Russia has embassies in countries we would never dream of. Yet, you don't hear us knocking their embassies. You don't hear us telling them they shouldn't have their embassies in such locations. We don't do that. Yes, we do make our own decisions. And I hate to disparage any other nation, but guess what? I don't care what you think. Now, I'm going to play just a little bit of the Israeli national anthem. The Israeli national anthem, for your information, is called Hatikva. And despite what some people think, I believe that it is a peaceful country. Like every country, it is not without its issues and not without its strife and problems. Do I want to see the Palestinians repressed the way they are? No. Hardly. But then I call on the Palestinians to stop using what resources they get to dig tunnels into Israel to cause mischief and mayhem. I understand one person's freedom fighter is another person's terrorist. But one president after the other waived every 6 months moving the embassy because of a fear of the impact this would have on U.S. national security. This fear seems to have been overstated. And yes, the Middle East is refashioning itself in many ways. Even the Bahrain foreign minister tweeted last week, following Israel's response to Iranian missiles fired into the Golan Heights, that Israel has a right to defend itself. This is a clear signal that the Bahrain royal family will not be firing up the masses to take to the streets in any protest against America or Israel for that move. And I've spoken many times, and often at length, about the Saudi royal family. Although I haven't mentioned the Jordanian royals, yes, their stance is relaxing as well. A much greater threat to Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, and Jordan, and for that matter the United Arab Emirates and Egypt, is posed by Iran, rather than a U.S. embassy in West Jerusalem. This means that those countries are unlikely to fan flames of protest and violence against it. Does this mean the move of the embassy will be without protest? Absolutely not. However, it means that the protests that do happen are likely to remain relatively small and more or less containable. Yes, I am aware that there are over 50 Palestinians dead from clashes along the Gaza Strip border with Israel. I am well aware about that. In a few years down the line, when the embassy is established and in fact work is carried out there without anyone taking notice, I hope we can look back at the day the embassy moved, just like we looked back on many other days. And it won't drive people to the streets, protest, or divisiveness. It'll be just a fact that this is what happened on that day. How many times do you hear on this day in history, and it's some event you had long since forgotten or never knew about? That is frequently the case. Let's hope that the divisiveness and the strife from this day in Israel will essentially take on the same tones. I don't like seeing divisiveness and strife. And while I can't assure you of that any more than by using my voice, I can say it's not something I look forward to. It is something I take with the understanding that not everyone sees the world the way I do. I'm a very strong American supporter. Why shouldn't I be? This is the land of my birth, the land I call home. I'm a strong Israeli supporter. Why shouldn't I be? While it's not the land of my birth or the land I call home, it is the only country on the world where my religion is as openly practiced as it can be. It is the only country on the planet where Jews have a state of their own. I cannot let that rest. Which is why, in case you haven't noticed, anytime there is an Israeli story, I go out of my way to remind you, I am Jewish. I have a bias towards Israel. I could pull countless audio clips, both for and against various Israeli actions. Today, I am choosing just to bask in the fact that the United States consulate is now the embassy is now the consulate, and the embassy is now in the capital of Israel. This does not mean that there aren't extra Marines on duty, extra Marines willing to stand in harm's way, extra Marines offshore on the USS Iwo Jima, just in case things go sideways. No, all of this is also true. I don't want to see the deaths of the Palestinians, but I would like to see them to stop, slow down, and make use of the assets given to them for good. Many times, all I see is they're taking the concrete that could have been put towards building hospitals, schools, houses, and other places, and they're using them to build tunnels into Israel so that they can attack sleeping Israeli citizens. This is unfair at its very core. What other choice does Israel have than to protect itself and its borders? Now, I'm not going to take this into an issue of walls, which there is at the Gaza Strip. But I am going to say that hopefully, a few months and a few years from now, please let it be just another one of those days where no one really remembers except for the this day in history folks. All right, I think that's enough of my rant on Israel. Hi, thank you for indulging me about this. I am working on trying to see if I can get a couple of audio clips from Pence's statements for the 50th anniversary of Israel. Yes, this was all time to go with the 70th anniversary of Israel. Durka Durka, get my head screwed on. Yes, Israel is a relatively young country.
Exactly 70 years ago, the United States, under President Harry Truman, became the first nation to recognize the State of Israel. Today, we officially opened the United States Embassy in Jerusalem. Congratulations. It's been a long time coming.
And let's go for one more audio clip.
This city and its entire nation is a testament to the unbreakable spirit of the Jewish people. The United States will always be a great friend of Israel and a partner in the cause of freedom and peace. We wish Ambassador Friedman good luck as he takes up his office in this beautiful Jerusalem embassy, and we extend a hand in friendship to Israel, the Palestinians, and to all of their neighbors. May there be peace. May God bless this embassy. May God bless all who serve there, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you. Have a fantastic day.
Those are just some of the comments made by President Trump in a videotaped address for the opening of the Israeli embassy. I'm sure there were many more statements and many more comments, because the dedication of such a building is not something that you see every day. I'm certain many people were off chasing the proper protocol for such things. Once again, I thank you for indulging me in the fact that Harry S. Truman, on this day in 1948, and yes, I played it for you, recognized the government of Israel. Well, on November 29th in 1956, third time was a charm.
Afghanistan? No.
What you're listening to is the vote, the audio recording of the vote to recognize Israel and admit them to the UN.
Argentina? Abstention? Australia? Yes. Belgium? Yes. Bolivia? Yes. Brazil? Yes. Belarus? Yes. Canada? Yes. Chile? Abstain. Soviet Union? Yes. United Kingdom? Abstain. United States? Yes. Uruguay? Yes. Venezuela? Yes. Yemen? No. Yugoslavia? Abstain.
The resolution of the Dutch Committee for Palestine was adopted by 33 votes, 13 against, 10 abstentions.
That was yet another historic day that, unless you are a history buff or just happen to know it, you will never see except on this day in history. All right, folks, we have reached the wonderful time to pay those radio station bills. Now, as always, you can follow me on Twitter at Radio Host Jesse. You can email me at the station at Jesse's POV at KLRNRadio.com. And I will see you on the other side.
No, I'll stand my ground. Won't be turned around. And I'll keep this world from dragging me down. Gonna stand my ground.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, Internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. you'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now, 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Sometimes riders feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
Well, I won't back down. No, I won't back down. You can stand me up at the gates of hell.
And I thank y'all for hanging in there with me while I paid those radio station bills. Now, I think I've done as much coverage of the U.S. Embassy opening in Jerusalem as I'd care to tonight. If you'd like to know more about it, hit me up on Twitter at Radio Host Jesse. I can shoot you all the links I read and didn't go through on the air. I'll be more than happy to do that. Oh yeah, that's the show prep. Now, let's move on to a few other topics. Let's talk elections. No, I'm not talking that Senate race. No, not that gubernatorial race either. No, this had nothing to do with Oklahoma. I'm talking the elections in Iraq. Yes, the elections in Iraq. Come on, you guys ought to know by now. I don't cover U.S. elections. I leave that to others. Well, it seems that the U.S. influence in Iraq may be waning. And guess who is picking up the pieces? Iran. Yeah, you guessed it. Iran. It's not something I like to hear, but it is a sovereign country. And they have a right to choose their own leaders, just as we have the right. However, that doesn't make me happy. Why do I think U.S. is losing power and influence in Iraq? Because we pulled out. Yes, because we pulled out. No, Trump, not to pull out from Trump, because he hasn't done one. When Obama pulled out, he just marked a date on a calendar and said, as of this date, we're gone. Well, there's an issue with that. If you tell your enemy and broadcast things like that, they will have one thing to say. You may have the watches, we have the time. And that is a very valid statement. All right, so let's talk about this Iraqi election. Muqtada al-Sadr, he's a firebrand militia leader whose forces once battled American troops in Iraq and were implicated in widespread atrocities against civilians. And they think we'll take anybody as a political candidate. Has emerged as a surprise frontrunner in Iraqi national elections. After American forces withdrew from Iraq in 2011, Mr. Sadr remained vocally anti-American, though he's also been strongly critical of Iran and other foreign power with widespread influence in the country. The victory of Mr. Sadr's political coalition could complicate the American strategy in Iraq. Now, how? Well, the American military has been training and sharing intelligence and planning missions with former militias in the country, gambling that their military partnership can keep ISIS, or the Islamic State, or Daesh, from making a comeback. Mr. Sadr has been highly critical of American airstrikes in the country, even those against Daesh. Though he said little recently about his willingness to allow American troops to remain on Iraqi soil. Some of Mr. Sadr's political allies, even those who fought against American soldiers in the past, want the United States to stay and help shore up the country. His closest rivals support the Americans staying. Mr. Sadr's only statement on it is that he would abide by agreements between the United States and Iraq on training Iraqi security forces. This is a firebrand militia leader who once battled American forces. Now, our troops are expected to trust him and his militia forces with weapons side by side. And people wonder where green on blue attacks come from. I know that I would not feel safe with this man or any of his militia behind me with a loaded weapon. Mr. Sadr once led the Iraqi Shiite militia known as the Mahdi Army, which fought with American forces after the 2003 invasion that toppled Hussein and the Sunni-led minority that was then in power. The Mahdi Army was blamed for death squads that committed reprisals on Sunnis during the country's worst sectarian convulsions in 2006 and 2007. Early in the American invasion, President George W. Bush called Mr. Sadr an enemy and even briefly considered the idea of having the American military capture or kill him. They didn't. Mr. Sadr, a scion of a Shiite clerical family, has spent years refashioning his image. This just goes to show rebranding works. He now shows himself as a populist outsider intent on fighting corruption. Wait a minute, some of these lines sound awfully familiar. He has capitalized on grievances shared by many Iraqis over the systematic graft in their country. Okay, graft, corruption. This sounds familiar. Are we really talking Iraqi elections? Well, yes, because I don't know any of our politicians who would make a prolonged trip to Iran. He no longer rails so defiantly at America as he once did, when his disciples killed United States soldiers and committed atrocities against the Sunnis in a sectarian bloodletting. He cast himself as an ardent nationalist and distanced himself from Iran, the Shiite power next door that established a growing influence in Iraq after the American military withdrawal in 2011. He's recently even visited Saudi Arabia, Iran's regional rival, where he met with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, among others. Well, I can say that while the enemy of my enemy is my friend, I'm not so sure I would call Sadr my friend. It just goes to show politicians always have pasts, no matter what country, what nation, or how you put them together. I guess it also goes to show that rebranding does work. It seems to have in this case. Many voters abandoned the traditional divisions and supported two new political movement groups that promises to tackle a pervasive everyday problem, corruption. The groups also ran on a pledge of Iraq first, a rebuke to outside powers many blame for recent instability. The two top names on the list blamed for instability are Iran and the United States. Yes, two enemies are both blamed for instability in the same country. And it's expected that voters would punish the big political blocs for their failures. Their election campaigns offered nothing to voters and were unconvincing, according to a political science professor at Al Norain University in Baghdad. The winners not only scrambled the pyramid of power in Iraq, but raised the possibility of a government with radically new priorities. I think this is fantastic. No, I don't want to see us blamed for things going on in Iraq, any more than I want to see Iran gain influence. I think it's fantastic that essentially grassroots movements are taking hold somewhere. I think it's fantastic. I think it is outright amazing. Now, how do we get it here? Anybody? Oop, sorry, wrong show. I keep thinking for tonight, because there's so much politics in everything I'm saying, despite my attempts to keep it out of it, that I'm on America Off the Rails. But that's on at 11 o'clock, and it's not even 10. So let's talk Russia, Israel, Iran, and Syria. The Kremlin's military alliance with Tehran in Syria is showing some cracks. In fact, it may have fractured. The fierce Israeli airstrikes against Iranian forces are testing the limits of that relationship. The Israeli attack, its biggest ever in Syria, came hours after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu sat at Russian President Vladimir Putin's annual military parade in Moscow. Russia's response to the strikes has been muted, and the two leaders likely agreed on acceptable targets. The rising hostilities with Israel lay bare tensions in the alliance between Moscow and Tehran that turned the tide of the Syrian conflict in favor of President Bashar al-Assad, and the strategy has helped assert Russia once again as a global power. And it has helped Iran to expand its Middle Eastern influence. Now, as Mr. Assad regains control of much of the country, Russia and Iran have shown how much their interests diverge in Syria. Russian analysts have grown concerned over Iran's attempt to use Syria as a beachhead to threaten Israel, and to boost their power over Lebanon, Jordan, and the Palestinian territories. Russia would like to see Iran's influence in Syria reduced, because they have radically different ideas on what post-conflict Syria should look like. Russia is happy to have Syria run its day-to-day operations. They just want a naval base. Trust me, they want another warm water port and another place where their sailors can roam free and call home. Iran, well, they want one thing. The same thing that is chanted in their mosques every Friday. Death to Israel, death to America. Is there anything unclear about those statements? I don't think so. Now, Iran has been happy to partner with Russia, especially during the sanctions regime, because, well, Russia isn't always known for upholding sanctions, especially if you have something they want, whether it's legal to trade or not. The U.S. withdrawal from the nuclear deal appears to move in lockstep with Israel. It's raised the stakes and forced Iran into a corner. Now everyone's telling me that the deal was very hard on Iran. I don't see it that way. If it's was so hard on Iran, why is the country wanting to maintain it with its European allies? And yes, I'm going to say allies, or at least trading partners in this case. Trust me, the European countries wanted nothing more than to get back into Iran for trade. They've been trying to get the sanctions lifted for decades. I'm not the first to think this. I'm not the first to know it. It is actually fact, although I don't have the sources in front of me to cite it. If you're really interested, hit me up on Twitter or email me at the station. I'll give you the background information. Just be advised, there's over 1,000 pages of reading in the links and books I'll suggest to you. Last year, Iranian-backed soldiers ignored targets agreed to by Moscow and Tehran and called in Russian airstrikes against their own preferred targets. Wait, Iran went against Russia? Yes. This enraged Russia's Central Command because this wasn't the game plan. And while Iran had been granted some liberties with Russian air power, they were supposed to stick to the script. Iran never sticks to the script. As far as Putin is concerned, Israel and Iran can continue fighting as long as they keep their operations within certain limits. Putin doesn't care. Just don't hurt Russian interests or cause an all-out regional conflict. And Putin will let you squabble. For those of you who are keeping score, there's a UN Security Council meeting scheduled to be held tomorrow to discuss the Palestinian issue. I have no doubt this will be an interesting and potentially contentious meeting. However, I'm still waiting for the Palestinians to start using the concrete they receive for something other than building tunnels. When they do that, let me know. I'll gladly help them. When they can actually build houses, bakeries, and other infrastructure needed for their citizens, please contact me, because I would love to see a booming Palestinian nation. Trust me, I've done some research. This whole Palestinian refugee thing essentially was a numbers game. I'm working on putting it all together. But trust me, for a while, the Palestinian refugees were actually Jordanian citizens. You can do the research yourself, but I am working on it, because I want to do a special on how we got the Palestinian refugee problem we have. It wasn't originally set to be this way. But then one person realized that they could earn money without having to do anything. And the chaos bloomed, subjecting thousands, if not millions, to a life of poverty and injustice. This is not something I support. While I do have a strong pro-Israel, pro-U.S. stance, I don't want to see any nation suffer. And I pray daily for world peace, although it may not come in my lifetime. But there are signs of it blooming in at least one peninsula that I never thought I'd see it. Now, what can the Allies do other than fume over Trump's withdrawal from the Iran deal? Well, Britain, France, and Germany are near busting with anger and exasperation at the United States. There's been a frenzy of meetings and phone calls among them over the past week. Their leaders are trying to figure out what they can do about Trump's withdrawal from the nuclear agreement and his plans to impose sanctions on their companies that continue doing business there. Unfortunately, there's not much they can actually do. They can ask for exemptions to the sanctions that the administration has said will be applied to any European business that trades with both Iran and the United States. But they have been told, with clarity, that there will be no exemptions. They can look for ways to preserve the deal by extending financing and other guarantees to European investment in Iran. But even if those mechanisms worked, and there's little belief that they would, most Europeans have not yet decided how far they're willing to go on antagonizing the United States. They are determined. British Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson said Monday, after a meeting with his French counterpart, to conserve the essence of the nuclear deal without the United States. The three European powers will meet in Brussels with European Union officials and with Iran's Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif to discuss exactly how to get on with things. At this point, it's all talk. Now, for a deal that everyone says was so harsh on Iran, if Iran wanted out, this would be their opportunity. When you are charged with collecting your own soil samples, and outside inspectors have to give 6 to 8 weeks notice, so that you can clean up, reshuffle, or take apart anything you aren't supposed to have or remove it. What more can you ask for? If you're building a bomb and it's not on a military site, I wonder what you're actually doing. I'm sorry, I've never run across a Patriot missile launcher or any other bomb that was actually being constructed outside a United States military site, at least not in modern times. Yes, I know the Manhattan Project was something completely different. But even then, the tests were done under the watchful eyes of the Department of Defense. And I'm certain that the Department of Defense had some way of claiming that piece of property. Despite everything that's going on, I have to say, the world feels just a bit calmer this week. The world didn't stop turning because North and South Korea made overtures towards peace, although I have yet to believe the North Koreans. The world hasn't stopped turning because North Korea has said it will denuclearize. I'm again waiting on, the proof is in the pudding again on that one as well. I will say the North Koreans did return 2 Americans who were being held captive. And yet the world kept spinning. Now we have a U.S. embassy in Jerusalem, and yet another day will dawn. Alright folks, thank you for hanging in there with me. Now you can Follow me on Twitter at Radio Host Jesse. You can email me at the station at Jesse's POV at KLRNRadio.com. And as a reminder, Jesse's POV can be found on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and many of your favorite podcast locations. I'm gone.